Hi guys, how's it going? It is Tuesday or Thursday, whatever it is. I hope it's going great for you guys. I'm going to finally film a video over this topic because I've been wanting to, and there's actually 3 in the series, but this is just the first one. And no, it is not clickbait. It is a dream, if you were wondering. But I'll just get into it because it's kind of complicated. So before I do start, I do want to put in a disclaimer, or whatever you want to call it. I am not a racist. This is just a dream. And I do not think this is true. If it is, okay. Also, if you're afraid of talking about God, Satan, demons, devils, the paranormal getting into your brain, then don't watch this video. Moral of story, there you go. Okay, let me actually get into this. So in this dream, I am alone on this canyon or cliff. I think it's a canyon. That's what the geographic term for it is. And I'm just sitting alone, and it felt real. It didn't feel like I was in a dream, which I need. Camera, can you focus? Which is kind of important for you to understand before I actually get into this. So I'm here alone, just thinking about life, and all of a sudden, this very elegant, proper man who's wearing an amazing, like all black suit comes, and he sits kind of further away from me. So I'm here, and he's over here. And he just sits down, and I look over at him like that. I'm like, that's kind of strange. Why is this man here? But although it was odd for us to just be in a canyon all alone, it felt natural. Like, it wasn't strange. That wasn't the strange part. It was just that I didn't know this man, you know? So he's over there, and I look over at him, and then he goes, come here. And I was like, me? And he's like, yeah, come here, my child. Which I need to preference. He called me his child. Not anybody else's, but his. So I was like, oh, okay. So I go over to him, I sit down, and then he's like, it's a bit chilly, isn't it? And I was like, I guess you could call it that. So in between us, he just goes like this. He goes, and then a flame appears. And it's kind of like a little campfire at this point. I didn't think anything of it, which is strange. I was just like, okay, there's nothing weird about that at all, you know? And then he asked me the very simple question of, are you hungry? And I said, no, I'm fine. Thank you for asking, though. And he gets very frustrated, even though I was very, very nice about it. He goes, why are you lying to me again? And I was like, I'm lying to you? I'm sorry. My nerves haven't told my brain that I'm hungry yet, but I guess I am. So he takes out these marshmallows and he puts them on a stick, and then we start roasting them to make s'mores, I guess. And then as we're doing this, he brings up the easiest conversation out there, right? He goes, so what's the worst thing you've ever done? And I look at him, and I was like, what is the worst thing I've ever done? I don't think I've actually taken time to really remember what is the worst thing in my entire life that I've done. And then I can't think about it, and I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, again with your lies, Nikki. And I have to point that out, that he knew my name, and I didn't know this man. But in my dream, I didn't think anything of it again. It felt very natural to have this conversation with this man. So we're just sitting there, and he's like, come on, you can tell me, you can trust me. And I was like, no, I don't know. And I'm like stuttering, and he's like, you're lying. And I was like, I'm not lying. He's like, I guess we're doing this the hard way. And I was like, I didn't know we were doing this the easy way originally. What hard way? And he's like, you're coming with me. Come on, we're going to my palace. And I'm like, who is this man? Like, obviously he's very proper, very rich, but where is your palace? But I get up nonetheless, and then where this canyon was, I had never noticed that there was a fire pit, and it was very, very high so that you could see all the fire. And we start walking towards it, and he goes, so this is the canyon, right? We start walking this way, so we're defying gravity, and the fire moves every time he steps in front of it, so we're not getting burnt. And then we finally make it to the bottom, and there's this beautiful, like, metal picnic table. And there's obviously no fire here either, just so you know. And we sit down, and there's these fire people, I guess, or his helpers, demons, whatever you want to call it. They're there, and he claps his hands, they appear, and they escort me to where there is no fire in this canyon. And as we're walking this very, very narrow path where the walls of the canyon feel like they just never end, and you're suffocating, and if you're claustrophobic, you're dying at this point because it's so terrifying. And as I'm walking, I start remembering my childhood. And like little visions, but it's in like a third person point of view, so I can look over it. And I remember little things, like when I was younger and my brother was a baby and I bit his finger even though my parents told me not to, and he cried, or when I accidentally pushed my brother and he started crying and I lied, and just little things I did as a kid. And then bigger things I did, like throwing a tantrum in church, because I felt uncomfortable. And then when I was 11 and I did the worst thing known to mankind. So I resaw that, and after I saw that, I was like, oh my god, that's the worst thing I've ever done. Now I know. So after I saw it, I got back, I guess I sat down, but I got back up, and then we started walking back to where he was, and I sit down again, and he's like, you doing fine? And I was like, yeah. So I remember he was drinking tea, and then he hands me one, and I like drink from it, and it was like, it's kind of cold. So he just gets his finger, and he's like, there you go. Like, no big deal. I just like, no big deal, you know, not creepy at all. And I'm drinking the tea, and I remembered, I was like, hey, what do you want me to call you? And he's like, oh, I have many, many names, but I prefer the name Lucifer. And that's when it hits me. I'm like, you're Satan. I'm in hell. Fuck, I deserve to be here. I'm in hell. Because I had just remembered what I saw, and I was like, oh my god, I'm dead. I'm actually here. Like, there's nothing I can do about it at this point. That was like my mindset, okay? There's nothing I can do about it at this point, right? So I'm in hell, and he asked me again the same question. What's the worst thing you've ever done? And I was like, and he's like, you can trust me. You can tell me anything. I'm your friend. I'm your friend. And I was like, I can't. I'm sorry. It sounds a lot worse when I say it than what it is. And he kind of just like gets frustrated, and he's like, just fucking say it. And I was like, okay. So I tell him, I'm going to say it, and then I'm going to explain it because it's a lot more complicated than it sounds, and it sounds a lot worse, okay? So I tell him, and I was like, I told her to kill him. And that sounds like murder, and it is what it is, but it isn't. So I'm going to explain it. When I was younger, I had a best friend who was older than me by 2 years, and she was 13. And she was pregnant. And, well, the father of the baby was also a family member who had raped her. And when we were younger, I was the first person she came to. And she asked me, she went, Nikki, what do you think I should do? And I told her to get an abortion. Because I knew, even in my 11-year-old brain, that no 13-year-old should have a baby, especially knowing that it would have deformities and mutations because it was bloodlined, and because she was too young and it would haunt her because she was raped. So I told her to have an abortion. The reason it's so wrong for me to say this, even though now it's 2017 and it's acceptable, is I was Catholic at the time, and that goes against everything in the Bible, doesn't it? But I told her to do it, and in my respect, or in my defense, I was younger. I was 11, which, why would you take advice from an 11-year-old? I still love this girl to this day. I'm not going to name her because it's her story, not mine. But she took my advice and she did it. And I regret saying that. I wish I could go back so badly and tell her not to do it, but she did. And that baby is somewhere in heaven, I hope. I really do. And it hurts to say that it's basically my fault that he's not here with us now. But do I think that my friend would be alive now if she had had it? No. No, I don't. I know she wouldn't. But it's the worst thing I've ever done, okay? So if you were wondering, that's what it is. So I say it, and he finally starts clapping. He goes, finally, you admit to your lies. And I was like, I'm not admitting to any of my lies. I'm just telling you what happened. And he's like, okay, we're going to hell. And I was like, okay. And he's like, why aren't you fighting back? And I was like, because I deserve to be here. And he's like, no, you need to fight back. You're better than this. Fight me. You have to tell me you don't want to be here. And I start crying in my dream, and I say, no, God doesn't deserve me anymore. I'm not good enough. And he gets so frustrated at me, and he's like, I guess I'll have to show you what hell is actually going to be like. So in my dream, he grabs my face, and I start getting really, really hot, and it feels like my face is burning off like acid. And then I see all of my friends committing suicide in the worst way ever. Cutting vein by vein, getting their head chopped off. Just horrible, horrible things that I'm not going to go fully into depth because this video would be like 25 minutes long. But after that, the last vision he gave me was of the friend that I ruined her life, I guess you could say. We're in this pool, and all of a sudden it turns to blood. And I turn around and I see her, and she's just this demonic beast, and her nails are like extremely long, she's just flicking blood at me, saying, "You're not good enough. Nobody ever liked you. No one's ever going to love you." Just horrible things, saying she only used me, that she was a demon watching out over me, making sure that I'd end up in hell with her. And then I woke up and I cried because I'm a little bitch. But this is not over. There is two more dreams that go along with this of me talking to Satan. So if you want to continue watching this, then I will see you next week. I'm gonna go talk to my friend now because I feel really, really scared and I'm having bad vibes. Anyway, see you next week. See you soon. Oh, and I love you. Bye.